Welcome to the Spinwhiz Comics Show.
Whoa.
From Raleigh, North Carolina. Join us for exclusive interviews with the publishers bringing you the newest titles in indie comics, webcomics, movies, and more.
No way.
And now, here's your host, Jeff Palumbo.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name, as always, is Jeff Palumbo. This is the Spinwhiz Comics Show, where I normally, 99% of the time, chat with creators, artists, writers, and all sorts of other Spinwhiz Comics partners. Once in a while, we'll pull in somebody that I'm just friends with to kind of shoot it and see what they're going, or somebody that I've met at a show or something like that. But 99% of the time, it is partners that are on Spinwhiz Comics. It's these great people with amazing content, all independent, who are trying to get you to read their content because their content is awesome and the big two can suck it. So that's really what we do here. I chat with people, I hang out, and then we say goodnight, and that's it. It's really quite fun. So for those of you that don't know me, this is the first time we're streaming on Facebook. It used to be Twitch. We have transitioned over to Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, there literally is no change whatsoever for you. But if you are used to watching us on Twitch and now you're on Facebook and you're like, why? Why, Jeff? Well, the answer is easy. People are here. A lot of the artists that we talk to have creation contents on Facebook. A lot of the community and potential readers are on Facebook. And that's really what Spinwhiz Comics is all about. It's not about us making a whole buttload of cash, even though we hope to do that eventually. It's about trying to allow readers to discover these great, great content creators. And that's what it's all about. So Facebook in general might be the new hotness. I don't know. I don't know. Nick Fowler, what's up? Welcome to the stream, buddy. So if you have questions, obviously, ask them. That's what people are here for. So my first guest, or not my first guest on the show, it's the first guest. This is like our rising Facebook extravaganza. But we have had Oneshi Press here multiple times. They've been a partner for almost 2 years now. I'll have to ask them if that's true. It's at least a year and a half. Yeah, it has to be at least a year and a half because we have 5 of their titles. We've gone through two Kickstarters with them already. This is the third one. It's actually the one that I have been looking forward to because our last time I had him on the show, they had talked about it. It kind of squeaked out of Jayel's mouth, even though he wasn't supposed to say it. And he's like, ah, crap, now I got to talk about it. I'm like, yeah, you do. So anyway, there's no sense in listening to me. How about we listen to them? So let me bring them in. Jayel and Lynsey from the wonderful Oneshi Press. Let me bring them in. Oh my gosh, it's working. Do you see me? Can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear us?
Oh God, you guys are the best. How's everybody doing tonight?
Wow.
Wonderful.
I'm blown away by this technology.
And it works this time.
We're living in the future.
We really are.
Actually, we're living in the past because of the delay.
I'm so confused.
So I'm living in the future? No, I'm living in the present, but to you I'm living in the future. And
yes,
you are
your
in the past.
present is our future.
When will then be
our
now?
present is your past.
Soon.
I'm already lost.
When will then be now?
I say that to my family because my son is too young to watch Spaceballs. My wife is just like, I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know what you're saying.
So it is marvelous when I speak to people and they get it and they laugh and they're like, haha, I know what you're talking about. Because I'm like, oh God, I'm among my people. You understand me. But my wife will be cute and she'll say something like Yoda. And I'm like, oh, that is, thank you, sweet. That is
nice.
God, you're so supportive. I appreciate that. And I give her like super bonus points for trying. So anyway, enough about my life. How are you both doing?
Well, we're doing all right. We're almost at 20% on our current Kickstarter. So these are exciting times.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think one of the biggest challenges is that just not enough people know about it. And, we spend so much time working on it that we just don't have the time to get good at the marketing and all that other stuff. And so the fact that you're cool enough to have us here and talk to us and, just ask us about our projects for other people to hear and our content then becomes part of your content. That's super cool.
That's what it's all about, man. And it's great content. I really think that people need to understand the fact that this is not your first title. Just on spinwhizcomics.com, you have 5 titles And altogether with, let me see, 16 issues overall. And I think that 8 of those are anthologies. 3 of those are long-ended volumes. And then, well, technically Tracy Queen is a long-ended volume as well. It's not really it's not your 130-page graphic novel, but it's longer than your normal trade paperback.
Yeah, they're not short comics.
No, they are not. And I think that's what I love about you guys is you tell a story. You're like, well, it ended up being 87 pages. It's not we have to make it 24 pages. It's not we have to make it 182. It's, well, the story was over at 87.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, sometimes it's what's right for the story. And there are certain stories that we have very, very structured ways of telling them. Like we have some shorts that are like always going to be 8 pages. Like our Children of Gaia comics are always 8 pages long. Pack is always 24 pages long. Tracy Queen is always longer than that. Our Children of Gaia books, they're as long as they need to be. Often, like you said, it's like 120 some odd pages, you know? And I think it really depends on the project and what's right for that project, as opposed to making projects fit our project mill, like where we're just churning out projects like monthly, or, you know what I mean? Like we care about each one individually, and we want it to be whatever it is supposed to be, you know?
That's the cool thing about being indie.
But I think that's awesome. I mean, it's just the story was over, or at least that arc was over. And I think that helps you. And you could tell me, does it help you to free flow more, like you said, Jayel, is to get it to that point that you wanted it at, and you don't feel like you have to create a hook at 24 pages or at 36 to bring you to the next volume? Do you feel that frees you to that, and you can just make the hooks where they're needed and make the arc the way you want it?
It can.
Ish.
I mean, again, some of our stories are designed to be included in our anthologies, so they're designed to break at 8 pages. And when you have something that breaks every 8 pages, you can kind of like snap on extra chapters. Like if each 8 pages is an arc, you can have it be 24 pages, or you can have it be 32 pages. It's basically just multiples of 8. And you can kind of click them together, you know, like
It's the Legos of comics.
yeah, like comic Legos.
Like modular storytelling.
Right.
That's way better than, that's like a really like professional term. Like I use
Modular
Legos,
storytelling.
You're using
I like
modularity of
the
Lynsey,
modularity.
I'm
It's the IKEA method.
Right. Well,
it is the IKEA method.
way to just taken it. We had something really great here.
Yeah, IKEA is great.
I know.
I'm a big fan.
Their meatballs are awesome, right?
Well, I don't know. I'm vegetarian.
I've actually never been to an IKEA.
Oh, really? It's an experience.
It's an experience.
It's
I've heard. I don't know if they have one near Raleigh.
It's like a culture. It's like they're the IKEA culture, and all the people in the IKEA, they know what to do. They know how to like go through the gauntlet and watch out for minotaurs and grab the meatballs at just the right time and keep going.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be a point system involved in making your way through IKEA.
Yeah, and if you go the wrong way, then like the knights come out and they take you back to the beginning, and
ghosts try to eat
ghost
you
hands.
if you stay there overnight.
Holy!
You're not supposed to, but
it's exciting.
This is amazing. I need to go find. I mean, eventually, when coronavirus is over and we want to travel again and be around a bunch of people, IKEA seems like the first place we should go.
Yeah. We gotta all like get like armor or at least cool hats.
Yeah.
Maybe some like offer weapons.
IKEA would be a great place to cosplay.
Yeah.
That would be fun as hell.
Like LARPing?
Yeah, totally. Right? Just this big like.
I don't know what they would do about it, like how much you could really get away with, but they're pretty chill there. I mean, they let people like lay down on the beds and like get all up in the display rooms and stuff. Like,
I mean,
I think you can have a good time.
Some of that might change post-COVID. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So let's jump on that, because this is really, I guess it's not the first interview we've had since COVID, but we've never really brought it up. And we won't say what the general industry feel is, because that is varying. People say, hey, they want to bring up Marvel and DC, and honestly, I don't care. That's not my problem. and there's enough people that want to support them that they can. I just don't. So to the extent that I used to have a bunch of like graphic tees. I mean, I still do, but a lot of them used to be Marvel and DC because I grew up in Marvel and DC. I now have a stack of them on my dresser that I'm donating and replacing them with non-Marvel DC t-shirts.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah.
Yep. So it's just not that you care or anything, but I just thought that's what we're going to run with. That's how we're going to roll. So how has the COVID-19 stuff affected you and either making money or how you make money, or are you just kind of cranking along on content regardless, or like has it affected you much?
I mean, as far as to be perfectly blunt, Lynsey and I have been working from home, cranking out comics and working on these projects for like the last
4 years.
4 years steadily. You know, before that it was like weekend warriors, nights and weekends we would work on it. But then for the last 4 years, like we made Oneshi our thing, you know, and like we've just been at our, you know, in our offices at home working on this stuff. So like everyone else's world is upside down and life is changing and they don't know how to deal with it and what are their hobbies going to be and what is their schedule going to be. And like kind of Lynsey and I haven't even like really flinched. Like
Wednesday.
It was just like, oh, something's going on outside. What's
Let's
that
not
about?
go out there.
You know, like
More.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, we've been impacted insofar as like our schedule goes, because we realize that the outside world is going through quite a lot right now.
Yep.
So, you know, originally we set out this year with a big set of plans about we were going to do 4 Kickstarters and we were going to put out, you know, these 6 books. And now we're realizing like that might be a little ambitious, just kind of given everything that's happening. So right now we're on our 2nd Kickstarter and, you know, it's still early days. We're about a week in. Actually, like exactly right now, we are exactly a week in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to tell at this point whether things are going to be relatively business as usual or if it's going to be harder or easier than usual, because Kickstarters are basically just a month-long panic.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really make heads or tails of anything during that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I've heard that. Again, I haven't done a Kickstarter in 7 years, 8 years. And you've all heard that story, so we don't need to repeat it. But
I mean, do we? Maybe just a brief summary?
About our panic?
Maybe I never told you. So I don't remember who I've told, just because I think it bores people, so I try not to bring it up. But 7 or 8 years ago, I created Chimera, and I actually, random note, I was actually cleaning out my office. There's this big old, you know, thing that holds all sorts of stuff, like I don't know what the actual terminology for it. If I went to IKEA, I could probably find what it is. But, you know, it has drawers and doors and all sorts of stuff. And an armoire? Would it be an armoire?
That sounds right.
Anyway.
That's where I would
like a
keep my
standing
armor,
wardrobe?
I think.
Yeah, kind of like that, but it's got shelves in it and stuff. But it closes. So
I
it's not
would
a book.
definitely put armor in an armoire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll add that. Yeah, at least a helmet. So I'm going through, and I actually find I have not seen them in 7 years. 7 years? Yeah, about 7 years since I put Chimera #1 out. In a duct-taped box, all of my issue #1s that I had printed out that I thought I lost.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So I have a box. I only have like 15 left because I gave out a ton of them.
Yeah.
And I have 15 mint condition
Wow.
#1s that are 7, almost 8 years old, sitting in a box.
So that's like your treasure box right there.
It's, well, I mean, it's that or it's kindling. So, I mean, I'm thinking it's a treasure box eventually if I ever get it back up and going. But I had about 3,000 people read Chimera, which is great for an indie comic 7 or 8 years ago. Went to Kickstarter, failed miserably.
Oh.
And I mean miserably. So I figured, well, if I have all my marketing and sales and e-commerce knowledge and I failed, other people must be having a hell of a time because they don't at least know how to do that, maybe don't know how to do that part as well. And so I started asking around. I did a ton of research, and I talked to my wife, and I'm like, you know, I was going to make Spinwhiz Comics a publishing house because I had other stories I wanted to write. And I'm like, instead, let's make it an independent distribution platform so I can help everybody, so nobody, again, has to go through, or at least limits what people have to go through that I do, so I can lend my support and my knowledge and match it with their own, and then they can have more success than I ever had.
Wow.
Right.
So in Spinwhiz Comics in its current form is born.
I mean, that's actually kind of similar to how Lynsey and I decided to be publishers. It's kind of like to build this platform that we're building for ourselves. Let's build it for other people as well. You know. So what you're talking about with distribution, I mean, that's really cool. There's something I think really like something sympathetic there, something, you know, similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Simpatico.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how it all came about. And maybe it wasn't as boring as I thought, but
No, that's not boring.
Not boring at all.
you know, not snoozing, but I guess for me, the reason I haven't brought out Chimera #2 or the other 3 titles that I have outlined is because I'm putting my effort into helping everybody else on the platform, and I want them to succeed, and my success will come eventually from that. So I guess it's just another form, and I want to bring out issue #2 just because it's a great story. It's fun. But do I want to spend 4 hours writing issue #2 and editing it and getting it ready for an artist that I have to pay God knows how much for? Or can I put that 4 hours into making the site better, update it, getting the app ready, get print on demand ready, get all the ad stuff ready, and just keep updating the site so it's a better reader platform, so that when people come to the site, they're like, not only is this badass, but we're finding all this great content and it's easy to use. So we're constantly upgrading it. But my partner and I work on it from 10:30 till 1 pretty much every morning, every night into the morning. So it's just one of those things. So I think it's another reason why I love having you guys on the show, is because every time it's something different, but you're the same great people cranking out new content. And if we lived closer, we'd be hanging out. And I think a lot of the people that I work with or that I partner with are like that. There are people that I will not bring on the site because I think they're assholes. And
fair enough.
And it's my site, so I can. That's really what it's about. But we don't need people that are bad apples bringing down the indie name. So I try to minimize them as much as possible.
Yes, good call.
Awesome.
Anyway, but enough about me and the platform. Let's get to you again. So I've put 2 links in the chat. If you are on YouTube, just go below. It's straight down there. It's just scroll. It's in the description box. Just click on it. So let's talk about this. Now, I briefly mentioned in the intro that when you were on the show a couple months back, we were talking about Tracy Queen Volume 2, because that was going in Kickstarter, and you let slip this content. And you're like, I'm not, and I'm like, no, you have to now. So let's talk about it. It's I want to get so this is called Mr. Guy and the Origins Comics Anthology, correct?
Yeah,
but
so
with Mr. Guy Zombie Hunter being the lead.
Right.
Please explain, because I think it's fantastic.
Okay, so Mr. Guy, I've been working on Mr. Guy since the early to mid 90s, and it was a juvenile project of mine. You know, like I didn't really know what I was doing with storytelling, but I thought, you know, how cool would it be to have like a fantasy character, like say this half goblin, right? And he's in a zombie apocalypse, right? Because how cool is like the fantasy world with like elves and orcs and humans and whatever. And how cool is like zombie apocalypse and like, you know, you got to survive the hordes and everyone's becoming one and oh God, it's everywhere. So like those 2 things combined are just like, you know, I always say I approach storytelling like dumping out my toy box, picking my favorite figures and then coming up with a story that binds them together, you know?
Fantastic.
So for me, it was just kind of cherry picking my favorite things. And Mr. Guy is very much like that. So each 8 pages is a different arc. And each arc is illustrated by a different artist, but it's one continuous story that
they pick up where the 8 pages picks up. Page 9 picks up where page 8 left off.
Yes.
Exactly. And so each artist knows what the artist before them is doing. They're all privy to the same script. I try to be very specific on like the 8th page of Arc 2, the last panel. I describe in detail like what's going to happen for this transition. And then in the first page of Arc 3, that first panel, I'm like, okay, so in the last panel, this happened, you know, this is how it's going to go. This is how we'll transition. But the cool thing is, it's like I draw this in your style for professional artists. So I don't really want them to look like they were drawn by the same person or by someone trying to emulate my style. I want it to be like, this is the Walter Osley arc. And you know Walter, you love Walter. You've read Metal Shark Bro, you've read Cubicles, you've read Shiver Bureau, you've read Hacksaw, you've read Isnana. Like, you know Walter's work. You want to see Walter's version of Mr. Guy Zombie Hunter, right? And then, you know, we bring in some people you might not have heard of. You might not have heard of Diana Camaro in the comics world. You're gonna, though. She is a rising star. Her work is amazing. It's so good. And she just had so much fun with her arc. And there's gore and all these different kinds of zombies. She has troll zombies and orc zombies, and they're just so much fun. And you can tell she's really enjoying herself. She's really letting the gore fly.
Yes,
it's silly, it's fun, it's like, it's just popcorn, that arc, you know. Arc 3 is total popcorn. And then Arc 4 goes into JC Chase, and they just
bring it home.
Everything is like, I actually wrote Arc 4 with JC Chase in mind. So it's a lot of the humor and the jokes and the things that I throw in are things that I know that JC and I both have in common. So they're things that, like, things we've talked about, like are things we've both made fun of about a game that we both love, or, you know what I mean? Things like that. I just threw them in there. So there's like a lot of just little like things that I love, that I know they love, that I also know you'll love and you'll get, you know, like pop culture references, a little bit of nostalgia baiting, but mostly just like tipping the hat to things that are great and kind of like part of pop culture. It's in the collective zeitgeist of storytelling.
Of zombie storytelling, specifically.
Well, I mean, there's some like Ninja Turtles references, but yeah, mostly it's a lot of like Resident Evil and things like that.
There's nothing wrong with any of that. I like everything that you just said.
Awesome. And
that's my kind of comic.
That's the first act, is arcs 1 through 4.
That's what we're fundraising right now.
You know, I illustrated the first. I illustrated the first arc 1. It seemed to me that that's like the introductory arc. I wrote this. It was like, all right, cool. I'll kick it off, you know. And then Walter does arc 2, and Diana does arc 3, and JC does arc 4. And so that's act 1 of book 1. There's gonna be 3 acts total, so 12 arcs total in book 1. But this is just the first act. So it's the first 4 arcs. And we're hoping that this goes really well and that people want it, and that act 2, which will be, you know, arcs 5 through 9 are just, you know, we're hoping that that's going to just come right in and follow up right behind this, because this is going to go really well. It's a lot of fun.
I love it. That's awesome. And Lynsey, what are you doing in this fun thing? 'Cause you're like a super duper editor writer supreme.
That is my official title. Yes, it's going to be. I'm going to get a plaque for my desk that says
that. That's a lot of letters on that plaque. I hope you pay for
like
the
a long
plaque. Not per letter. Yeah.
Yeah, like a nice big plaque. Maybe one for the door
desk
also,
length, you know?
or I'll at least put it on a whiteboard on the door to my office. Yeah. Yeah, I edited Mr. Guy, and I edited the Origins anthology, which we are fundraising alongside Mr. Guy Zombie Hunter Act 1.
Okay.
So I, you know, brought everybody together, checked over the scripts, checked over the lettering, and then for the Origins anthology, did most of the curation and editing for that as well, and wrote 2 of the short comics, which are continuations of Tracy Queen and Pack, our 2 other comic book series.
Well, damn. So this is like a bundle Kickstarter.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, more or less. We're
it's
doing
the
it all.
humble bundle Kickstarter, comic Kickstarter.
I actually also have a couple of things that I worked on in the anthology as well. I worked on an 8-pager from Children of Gaia. That's going to be in there with Chris Cavelli, and I did it's like a back and forth collaboration. Like I would do a sketch and then he would sketch over it and then I would sketch over it and he would write something and then I would rewrite it and then he would rewrite that. And so it's like we're passing this rock back and forth until it's like polished and smooth. That's the way we're approaching that collaboration. And it's really, I'm proud of it. It's awesome. And then I also had a collaboration with Yuki Dog Zombie, and Yuki had an idea for a story that she needed help with. She wanted to make it a comic, but she didn't know how. So I basically just picked her brains about the story, and I asked her, well, what are your ideas here? What do you want? Who's this character? What is the thing they're trying to do? What's the plot? And so Yuki gave me all the ingredients, and then I kind of whipped it into a script and I showed that to her and I'm like, hey, here's my rough outline of the script. What do you think? And then she helped me retool it a little bit and rework on it. And then I sent that back to her a little more finished. And then there was just a few minor things oh, could we do this instead of that? And I was like, yeah, let's change this up and make that work. And then I gave her the script and then she went and illustrated it. And, and that was awesome. So that's also going to be in there.
Damn. That's a lot of content.
Yeah. I mean, there's over a dozen different...
Yeah, there's going to be 14 short comics in this anthology. And that's just the anthology, because we're also doing Mr. Guy. So there's a lot going on.
So, I mean,
crap.
For backing one Kickstarter, you get these 14 short comics, plus the 4 Mr. Guy short comics, plus an absurd amount of supplemental artwork. I mean, it's I don't think we could figure out how to make this more of a value and a gift to our audience.
Plus whatever rewards you decide to go for, we've got a ton of them.
Yeah, so. Some of them get pretty top shelf, right?
Holy crap.
Yeah, I think altogether between Mr. Guy and the Origins anthology, we are fundraising the work of, it's about 35 different creative people who worked on these.
That's amazing.
And
I think so.
Really amazing people too. I mean, people that I really believe in, have a lot of love for, and want to be a part of their, what will be their success story. I want to be one of those stepping stones in their lives, one of those, just little forks in their path or whatever. Oh yeah, there's that time early on where I worked with Jayel on that thing. That would really mean a lot to me to know that I've helped people and they're just awesome people,
Yeah. I mean, that's really what we want to do. Oneshi Press started out pretty small, with us primarily working on our own content, but we've always wanted to make it bigger, bring more people in, and get their work into more people's hands. So we're just making it bigger and bigger and getting more people involved every time that we put something out there.
That's amazing. And here I just thought it was about a zombie.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Zombies for good.
Yes. Well, and I want to bring something up because it was, and I want to make it right because I can't remember exactly how you put it. But if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Guy is a comic book in one of your other stories, is it not?
So Mr. Guy, yeah. How that works is in what we call the Oneshi verse. That's the world that Pac and Tracy Queen take place in. They're the real world, and then in their world, someone from Pac or Tracy Queen, first of all, they could cross paths. They do sometimes in a panel of Pac, you might see Tracy Queen in the background, and in Tracy Queen there might be a reference to something from Pac in the background, but in that world, Mr. Guy is a comic. Any one of those characters could pick up a Mr. Guy comic. Like Nicola from Tracy Queen, he's a fan of Mr. Guy. And then in the Mr. Guy comic, Mr. Guy's favorite comic is Kung Fu Catfish. So he's always talking about Kung Fu Catfish. throughout Mr. Guy, there's other characters that he runs into. They bond over it, like, what? You're a fan of Kung Fu Catfish too? Awesome, I won't kill you, you know? Or like, what? We both have the same Kung Fu Catfish tattoo? How bonkers is that? So like, he's like a super fan of Kung Fu Catfish. But Kung Fu Catfish could also like, is super meta. Kung Fu Catfish could be reading a Pack comic or a Tracy Queen comic.
Oh my God, my head's about to explode.
Right. So like Kung Fu Catfish could be reading a Jeff Palumbo's Spinwhiz comic. I mean, like he could be reading about you or watching your stream.
Got
or
12 of them
like,
right over there.
He's got no rules, you know. Kung Fu Catfish I came up with when I was like, I don't know, like 9 or 10 or something. So, you know, and when I was 9 or 10, like rules were dumb. I wouldn't give my character rules. Why would you give your character rules? You know, like,
I agree.
Right. And so it kind of is like, it's one of those things that it tickles me to keep him alive and keep that childlike sensibility. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback. Like people love to like tell me like, oh, and then when Kung Fu Catfish said that thing, oh, that was my favorite part. And I'm like, it's wonderful because it's like the silliest thing. It's the thing that makes the least amount of sense, has the least amount of like contained world building, but it has like the most pure energy to it, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun, that breakdown, and it's kind of like an Ouroboros, you know?
Well, I mean, I think it's great that you're rolling in content into one another and it has that meta feel. Like it just, it's awesome. You know, one of my favorite authors does a lot of it. You know, I'm sure you heard of him, Stephen King. And, you know,
that guy.
Yeah, he's written one or two things. He'll get well known one of these days. I'm going to try to get him.
True story. I did security for Stephen King once with my brother, and Lynsey was a greeter.
I greeted him.
But like, what did you do at the actual event? I guess
it was a book signing. He was on tour with his son for the book that they did together that I'm blanking on the name of it right now. But they went on tour doing like a speaking tour where they basically sat on stage.
Sleeping Beauties.
Yeah, Sleeping Beauties. And let people ask them questions for a while. And the guy who runs the bookstore in town who was hosting the event asked us to help. So Jayel and his brother got signed up to do security, and the rest of us basically spent like the entire time that they were on stage doing that, taking all the hundreds of books that they had signed beforehand and stacking them by the exits so that when the crowd left, everybody got a book. So I don't know.
And it was like random which books were signed and which books weren't.
Yeah. But it was pretty cool. We all got to meet him and his son.
Was he nice?
He was so nice.
Super nice.
Super
nice. It was funny. One of the questions that someone wrote in, and you know, Stephen's son is checking the questions and reading them out loud into the microphone on the podium, and he's like, "Who would you say is one of your dad's biggest influences?" Without like missing a beat, he looked right into the audience and was just like Satan. It was really funny. I guess you had to be there, but you know, like you could tell that they had a really good playful rapport, and like everything was just like, you know, dark and macabre with them, but also like really lighthearted and really kind and really nice, and really like wholesomely macabre, you know, like I don't know.
Like dark, again, they didn't take themselves. They didn't take it too seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it was dark and it was jacked up to an extent, but you're like, but they're laughing about it the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it was
like,
really fun.
We're making millions off you. I mean, it's hard to not be happy when you know that.
So now I can say I did security for a high profile event. That was cool. You know, on both sides of the stage were me and my brother in our suits, you know, arms folded, making sure no one rushes the stage. You know what I mean?
Good for you.
It was silly. It was fun though. We got to meet him at his car and, you know, usher him in and all that.
That's awesome. Cool. Someday I'll get to meet him. My hope is that eventually he would read, well, this was back 7 years ago. My goal was to have him read Chimera.
Yeah.
Nice.
And not necessarily reach out to me and think it was good, but just on the off chance that I ever did meet him, it was him like, hey, like if we're at a show together, like we're all at a show and he happens to be walking through and picks it up, be like, I read this is great, can you sign it for me? And I'd be like, huh? Like you just like jaw would drop and I'd be like, yeah, like
Awesome.
you're Stephen King,
so
man.
cool.
Like, just, did you know that? And he'd probably be like, yeah, you know, he seems very like, yeah, I know who I am, like, big deal. And his son is obviously crushing it with Lock and Key.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the same son, right? That wrote, or does he have a?
I actually don't remember which.
I can't remember if it's the same son or not. I think it is. Ugh, I don't know.
Well, does he? It's the son that used a different name.
Yes.
He didn't go under King because he wanted people to know that when he was writing it was him. He didn't want his dad having influence on whether or not he grabbed it. And then Lock and Key like skyrocketed to popularity with IDW.
The co-writer on Sleeping Beauties is a King.
Yeah.
So it's a different son.
Okay, unless I want to Google it now.
Me too.
I want to actually see. I mean, I don't know. Notes later. We'll find out. I'll tweet about it later. But anyway, I mean, what a talented family, and it's so happy to hear that he does that. But I guess my biggest thing with him, and the reason I went through all his books, is I love how he keeps the string of the Dark Tower in a lot of his stuff.
Oh yeah.
And again, it has a less of a meta, but more of it's along that path of consciousness that he ties certain things. And certain things are really big, like Pet Sematary literally injects itself into the Dark Tower series, whereas something like Insomnia, it's like an offshoot of what the Crimson King is. Like it's just kind of like completely different take on how that world would react. And it's just, the guy is either, his nightmares just must be awful.
Yeah, but then he must wake up from them and be like, I'm going to make so much money on this.
He really does. He wakes up smiling because he's like, yes. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, his bed isn't with down feathers. It's literally with $100 bills just stacked in there. He's like, I need to add some more into this. And, the fire's down. Let's add more hundreds to that just to make sure we're warm tonight. Like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure that
give them to me.
when they were on stage, he said something about, I don't remember which book it was, but he was saying something about like when somebody in Hollywood called him up to ask if they could make a movie out of this book. His standard answer is like, yeah, sure, see what you can do with it. And I'm like, see, that's cool. He's very chill about his work. If he doesn't like it, he doesn't like it, and he just moves on to the next one. And he's making money the whole time.
Yeah, just raking it in.
For that.
Yeah, he kind of lets it. I guess I've heard that about him too. He kind of says, yeah, I'll sign off on the rights. Let me see a script and, whatever. I didn't like the adaptation of Dark Tower at all. That pissed me off.
Yeah.
We haven't even watched it.
I was very upset about that.
Yeah.
Again, I was even more upset about that than I was about the Star Wars series. And I was a huge Star Wars fan, but because I model so much of my writing after his style, and it meant so much to me, I'm just like, why? Why? Like you have two amazing actors in different corners, and that's what you make them do? Like,
yeah, such a shame.
I feel like it might have been a case of like too many hands in the pot,
Yeah, and he was probably just like, how much you paying me? Whatever. Make your adaptation of it. The Stand was good.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, The Stand was good.
That was very good.
That was done really well.
Faithfully adapted, I think.
Yep. The Shining was fantastic.
He did not like The Shining, though.
He didn't?
No, he didn't like it. That's why he did the miniseries for network TV back in the 90s, I think.
Because he didn't like the way The Shining came out? Wow. Didn't it win like a bunch of awards?
Yeah. Yeah, but he was like, nope, let me do this with the guy from Wings. And he did. It was good, though. Actually, I remember watching that miniseries. It was really good.
I have to recheck that out.
I remember. It was good, yes.
It wasn't the same level of like filmmaking, but it was it was more faithful to the book, and it scared the crap out of me because when I was that age, I knew who the guy from Wings was more than I knew who Jack Nicholson was, so it was really scary to me.
I feel like I watched it when it aired, but I don't think I've seen it since.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. It might not either.
I don't really remember.
I haven't seen it since either. But like, I thought the original It was scary.
Oh yeah.
The new one I thought was creepy, but again, I was also 20 years younger when I watched it.
Yeah.
Except for the end, I was just like, "What the? Really? You flipped over a big spider? Like that's what you did?"
Yeah, they just didn't have the effects at that time to really make that work.
Yeah. Be like, let's put it in we don't know what we're gonna do. We need to get this spider through. I was just like, oh no. But anyway, I digress completely from you guys. So let's talk more real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll let you guys go because your tea is definitely cold now. And your cat is pissed if you didn't feed him before the interview. The Kickstarter, I've already linked both the Kickstarter and your comics on spinwhizcomics.com on the site. You're good, or on this page. Again, if you're on YouTube, go down. They're right there. If you're on podcast, you can go to Kickstarter and throw in Oneshi Press is there. You could Mr. Guy will pop it up in the search bar. If you're on Spinwhiz, just go down to Oneshi Press through the browse. You can find them all. They're all great. Eventually, we will have Mr. Guy on the site and the anthology as well.
Yeah.
But we're probably, you're talking like 3-4 months from now. You really want to go to the Kickstarter and get it now so that when you get it and I don't have it, you can be like, Jeff, we have it before your site does. And I can be like, well, that's because you're supporting them and that's what you're supposed to do. So don't wait for it to be on Spinwhiz. Check out their other stuff now on Spinwhiz, but go to the Kickstarter. They're halfway through. It is 22 days to go. You're currently sitting at 1897 out of a pledge of 10,000. Let's get them there. But like Jayel said, there is a stack of content. Like it is so JC Chase, I have not met in person. Deanna, I have not met yet. Walter, I do know. Not really well, but Metal Shark Bro, and I met him at Heroes Con. Him and his crew were basically pitching that. He was super nice. I saw him on Twitch. Nice guy. But you really do have a stack up. Like this page, I just keep scrolling on the amount of content you have on this Kickstarter page, and your rewards are ridiculous. So, you literally have so many rewards, you can't even fit them into the same banner that you're promoting on it. Like, there's so much stuff, and you have socks.
Socks.
Who doesn't want real Mr. Guy socks? Right there.
These are actually the socks that Mr. Guy wears in the comic book.
They're socks.
The tagline is, "You don't change these socks. These socks change you."
That's fantastic. That's the way it should be. Like, this is great. So check it out. Go to it. Hook them up. It's worth it. They're great people. Another reason to do it. You don't always have to do it because they're great people, but it helps that you guys are not douchebags. You're really fun. You're enjoyable.
Well, thank you.
Very down to earth. Score, right? Wednesday complete. Really.
It's our tagline. Oneshi Press, not douchebags.
Hey, Joey, how are you?
Joey Galvez coming on in, saying hello. So before we log off, is there anything else you want to say? Is there anything anybody in chat wants to ask? Feel free. Now's your chance. But while they may or may not be jumping in, Stephen Ford said, awesome interview. Like, you guys are the
Thanks so much, Stephen.
So obviously, Facebook better than Twitch right now.
This is going pretty well. I feel good about this. And we're totally reachable and happy to answer any questions. If anyone has any questions now, or wants to say their, whatever the thing that interests them most is, or whatever, like, we're happy to field any questions. But all the information is there on the Kickstarter also, and on MrGuyComic.com.
MrGuyComic.com. I want to type it down in there.
Yeah, we're going to be putting out content about Mr. Guy and the Origins Anthology all month. So stay tuned on our social media and on the Kickstarter page itself. We're going to be putting out all kinds of cool stuff.
Yep, follow that. And then there's a question in there. Let's do the second one first. Do you like candles? What's your creative process, and do you like candles?
We light candles when we're calling forth the dark elements.
Right.
I don't know so much about the creative process. Sometimes that's involved.
Good answer.
Honestly, I think for the most part, I like to just, when I'm writing anyway, the creative process for writing is to just imagine what would be cool. I know the world, I know these characters, I've already imagined them, and now I just imagine how this event goes down. And then I run to write it down and try to just keep as much fidelity to that little vision trip that I just had. The real hard part is how to translate that into paper. And so I use shorthand, I do outlines, and I try to just belt it out as quickly as possible and as shorthand as possible so that I can keep the encapsulated image of whatever it was that I just imagined. You get it out as quickly as possible, and then once it's down and you have those notes down, that bullet outline, then you can refine it and work on the language, work on the sentences, on the structure, make sure it's making sense. Be like, Lynsey, help, make this better. I don't know if it's making sense. I edited too much, I need an editor to edit my editing. And for drawing, I don't know. I love to draw on Twitch and just be talking to people and listening to music. All of my self-aware analytical thinking is going to the conversation in chat and not what I'm working on. And I let my hands do their magic. It's like Roland, right? He lets his hand do its magic. You don't want to try to guide your hand because your hand knows what it's doing. When you try to guide your hand, you lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you want to just forget all that. And I think for me, being engaged with a creative community while I'm working enables my hand to do what it does. So that's more or less my creative process in a nutshell. That was a huge question. So I hope that my overview kind of at least gave you some semblance of a feeling of satisfaction.
I think it was good.
All right.
And Lynsey, do you have the same, besides calling forth the dark forces, do you do other things because you unlike I've said in our past interviews, you actually have a really pro background outside of comics writing. You are one of the people that I have met who is actually a professional writer that got into comics. So
oh, crap. Am I doing this in the wrong direction?
No, you're doing it in a great direction. It's just that
okay.
you're sourcing something a professional. Most comic writers don't consider themselves professional writers. They consider themselves professional comic book writers. But you, like a novelist, thinks of themselves as a professional writer because that's literally what they crank out. But most people that I know that write comics, they consider themselves, yeah, I'm good at it. It's a different level. Like, oh, you write novels? Holy shit. They even know that being able to write journalism or full novelist type layouts is drastically different than being a professional comic writer. Does that make sense? Just the girth of what you have to know is just
I am pretty girthy. What were we talking about?
Each time I talk to you guys, Lynsey ends up literally taking something way out of context.
Sorry, it's how my brain works.
And throwing
or putting it in context.
Hang on, I'm a professional.
That's true. You can do whatever the hell you want, Lynsey. You are a pro. So I shouldn't say girth. I should say breadth of knowledge. Yeah. Let's go with that.
The breadth and the girth of my knowledge is vast.
Yes.
I don't know. I am just a writer. I've always been a writer, so I just kind of write what what comes up. Like, I don't know. I started writing books when I was like 6, and those were novels. They were usually me totally ripping off somebody else's novel, but then I kind of learned how to write a book by recreating other people's stuff. I think a lot of people do it that way. And then, I went to college and I just got good at writing essays. And then I left college and I just got good at writing the next thing that came along, which was like journalism and criticism and reviews, interviews. Did that for a long time. Then wrote a sort of memoir / informative book about the stuff I had been writing about journalistically. And then I started writing a graphic novel because it just was like, that's what is next for me, I guess. And now I'm working on some short stories and a novel and still working on some comics. Just kind of, I don't know, like whatever the idea is that I decide I'm working on, I just kind of figure out how to do it, I guess. But I've also had a lot of training. I mean, I did go to school for writing, and then I did go back to school for publishing and editing. And so I actually am a professional in these ways. I have done these things for money, and because I want to also. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think of myself as like a writer.
Believe it or not, she actually left out a lot too.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like poetry.
All right.
And like she was part of like a poetry society in New York, and she was writing poems, and she also she's done tons of like op-ed pieces for all different magazines. She's done short creative fiction stories, like a bunch, which actually I'm really, really trying to press her to let Oneshi Press publish a collection of her shorts because they're freaking awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in there, and your experience through Penguin and Random House, I mean, that's continued on into freelance editing, and I mean that's a lot of hands-on experience. She's edited works for people that are household names, some of which we may or may not have talked about, like on your show.
I have not edited
not Stephen King, but some other really big names, I mean, so like that's a very intimate relationship with other great writers. You pick up a lot too from that.
Like I said, that is different than somebody who goes home after a full-time job and writes comics.
Right.
Yeah,
I guess
so.
That's kind of what I meant. Like,
I think I'm like a full-time word person.
Yeah.
I'm almost always dealing with the written word in some way, shape, or form.
You're a wordsmith.
Yeah. Yeah. A girthy wordsmith.
I'm going to take all of that back because that came out way wrong. And did you see me start blushing? Because it wasn't meant to do anything that was. That's not what I meant.
It's actually not that I'm a pervert. It's just that I like watching you blush.
Aww. And it is super hard to make me blush because there is not a lot that does that. But when I make an honest, like not even error, like something honest, and then somebody switches it on me, it happened at an event that I was doing when I was doing something for Lenovo. It was obviously very genuine and like just there was nothing wrong with it, but somebody took it and twisted it really quick on me, and I'm like, no, wait. No. And it was gone and out in that, and I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, I didn't mean it that way. And they're like, that's why it was funny.
Yep.
Like that's because we know you didn't. And anyway.
Like, I dropped it. It's out of control. Oh no.
Yeah.
It's going down the hill at big speed.
Yeah. So, Jeff does have dreamy eyes. Nick, you're so nice to me, Nick.
And there's another question from Joey also.
And Joey has another question. If Mr. Guy ran for president, what platform would he be?
So, what platform would he? What would his platform?
What was platform?
Be?
Excuse me. Reading is obviously not.
I mean, he does actually find himself in a position of power at one point, but I think the totality of his platform, or maybe his slogan, even would be like, "I'll save you all if I have to." Like our tagline for him is to save himself, he may have to save us all. How tedious. So it's kind of that reluctant hero, reluctant king, you know, like at the end of, say, Conan, or at the end of Chronicles of Riddick, or at the end of Conqueror's Bad Fur Day. You know, they have this very classic, you know, reluctant king endings. What was that also like? I want to say, was it Beowulf? Anyway, but yeah, the classic reluctant king ending. You know, like Mr. Guy finds himself in that place as well at one point. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's perfectly right for his character.
But is Mr. Guy a good leader?
Well, if everyone keeps backing our Kickstarters, they'll find out. You know,
He is very
Good
charismatic.
answer.
and that
Very
does go a
political.
long way.
I like to try to Joey's kind of point, if we were to put it into a D&D alignment type layout.
Oh.
What
Okay.
what would Mr. Guy be?
Chaotic neutral, I think. True neutral, maybe.
I think he's true neutral.
Wow.
He might even be like neutral good, like somewhere like, or like a chaotic good. Like he's kind of good, but only, yeah, I guess it's neutral because it's only good when it suits him.
Yeah, I think he's true neutral.
Yeah, he might be true neutral.
Wow. What are you guys? What would you say you are?
Me, I'm chaotic good.
Wait, I forget. I always say it wrong. I'm neutral good? Wait, no, neutral's in between good and evil. But I'm not true neutral.
I think.
Crap, I can't remember.
I think it would be between. I'm not sure.
I'll pull up the chart. Wait a minute.
Yeah, let's pull
Yeah,
the chart.
pull up the chart, because if I can see it, I can remember what I am.
He's got my vote, says Joey.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Let's see if I can pull one up. So we have true neutral, which is or lawful good, neutral good or lawful neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah, neutral good, which is or chaotic good is the same type of thing. I like I usually go lawful true, and then lawful chaotic, and then neutral true evil, or good neutral evil. That's what I usually, if you cross them. So lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil, neutral good, true neutral, neutral evil,
Right.
chaotic good, chaotic neutral, chaotic evil.
I was forgetting which was the y-axis and which was the x-axis.
So I always feel like to be, in my experience with life and my understanding of the universe, in my path, I feel like to really be good, you have to be willing to be chaotic, because sometimes, like lawful good, you'll find yourself too constricted or confined into doing something because it's part of a code, when something actually more good could be done if you are willing to bend that code for a greater good, or for, you know, something that's more pure of intent, or something that's more kind. You know, sometimes the kind thing isn't the lawful thing, right? And I don't just mean laws like laws of man. I mean, sometimes it's like the kind thing means putting down your code, stepping away from your ego, stepping away from your preconceived notions, stepping away from, you know, your own guidance system, even, to do what's actually right and kind and good. So that's why I always go with like chaotic good. You know, there's a time for everything also. There's a time for
chaotic means like sort of chaotic for the sake of being chaotic, as opposed to lawful. So I think what you're talking about is actually neutral good, because you can go either way.
Well, I think neutral good and chaotic good are the same thing. They're just different ways of describing it now.
No, because chaotic and lawful are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Oh,
Neutral
right.
is in
Okay.
between.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I have to give this more thought. I don't know.
We should just take a bunch of tests.
Well,
I also just like the word chaotic better.
Yeah.
Neutral sounds like I don't care. Chaotic sounds like I'll do whatever I care at the moment. You know, like whatever I care to do is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I don't know, because I follow the law and I'm very structured in what's, how do I say this? I don't go outside the law. I follow the law. I have a characteristic that there are things that I will not do because I think that they're wrong.
Sure.
But on the other side of that, if I find that somebody else is causing that character to fluctuate, then I will go the chaotic route and take care of it. Almost like a righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be considered chaotic good.
Mm-hmm.
So you're or neutral good, because you're kind of following the line. Like you don't go too, like I'm not going to go buck wild because somebody's not wearing a mask, right? I'm not going to go off on them because it's against the law and stuff like that. But if somebody is breaking into a store and I'm in that store, the chances of me trying to potentially stop that is high, because that is something that I feel I could help. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like a of value. Like telling somebody to wear a mask because I don't believe in it or because I think they should. I'm like, it's not worth my time. But the fact that somebody could hurt my son who's in the store with me, I'm going to take that guy out before he takes us out, because there is value in that.
Huh.
So I wouldn't. That's not necessarily lawful, because what you're doing is unlawful.
Right.
Yeah, I
'Cause
feel
you're vigilante at
like
that
it might be chaotic. It's like good, but to yourself as it happens. Whatever you feel in that situation, that's
I think
your.
That's more neutral.
That's
though.
chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I
Holy
always
shit!
think
Look
of,
what I started.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might
could do
need
this for a long time.
someone that's specifically like a D&D nerd to come in here and set us all.
Do we have any
straight, 'cause
D&D
we might be
nerds
using the
watching
wrong
right now?
term.
I know we have people watching. Do we have any D&D nerds that are like really into it?
Or like D&D theorists.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Ooh, a
theorist.
D&D
We're like an
theorist.
alignment chart
I
theorist
honestly-
expert.
I came to tabletop gaming pretty late, and I think the way that I came to understand the alignments was by looking at Game of Thrones charts of the alignments.
Kind of a good
so
way
like
to
I
do
always
it.
try to like think of the different characters in Game of Thrones and what their alignment is and whether I identify with them or not.
Well, let me look it up. I mean, we're right here. It's not. I mean, I have the internets. So
Where'd you get that?
I mean,
Can I have
that's-
some?
and it's my show. So as long as you guys don't need to go,
No,
let
we're
me see.
just hanging out and having
It's
fun.
still
Having
daylight here.
conversation.
Game of Thrones D&D alignment, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of them. Like, it's been hotly debated, but I think there's some general agreement on at least some of them.
All right. So
There's one
it
for The
doesn't have their
Office.
names. I can't remember what the hell all their names are.
We've been listening to the audiobooks of Game of Thrones. They are excellent to fall asleep to. So I'm up on all the characters.
All right. So this is going to be the easiest. So I can't remember all their damn names. That is what is actually killing me. Oh, son of a! Don't they have one?
Just describe them to us.
this one's got Oprah in it.
Ooh, okay. Unexpected.
With Game of Thrones. Wow, that's all right. So up in the top left-hand corner, lawful good is
Ned Stark.
the Targaryen, the blonde Targaryen girl.
Oh, Daenerys.
So she is lawful good. Like, have to free the chains.
Right.
Have to free the chains. Whatever stands in my way gets destroyed. Neutral good is Peter. What's his name that's in there? He drinks a lot.
Peter
Baelish.
Dinklage.
Oh,
Yeah,
Dinklage,
he's
right.
awesome.
That's Tyrion. He's my favorite.
Tyrion,
That's,
so-
that's,
Character is what I was.
what was his alignment?
He's neutral good. So I have a
Yeah.
tender soft spot in my heart for crippled bastards and broken things.
I have a tender spot in my heart for Peter Dinklage. I'll tell you what.
He's awesome, isn't he?
I love that guy.
Chaotic good is not Sansa, her sister.
Oh, Arya.
Arya is chaotic good.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
She gets pretty. I don't know if I would call her good by the end of the series, but okay.
Well,
Right.
she usually tries to do the right thing.
Gotta do
though.
what's right.
Yes.
The aim is good. What good just means like you're not trying to be a sadist. You're trying to help people. You're trying
Right.
to stop sadism, or you're trying to be sadistic. You know what I mean? That's good and bad.
All I'm saying is I think she gets pretty sadistic toward the end.
Well, that's why it's chaotic good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Lawful
Discrete methods or whatever.
Lawful neutral is the guy who had sex with the Red Queen the first time, and I think her ghost ended up killing him.
Stannis.
Oh,
He's
yeah, the lobster.
worst.
Do you like how I describe them? Like,
Yeah. I like how we know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like within seconds.
Yeah. I used to be in marketing.
Nice.
True neutral is the spider guy,
Okay.
the bald eunuch.
Paris. I love that guy.
Yep. So he's true. He just
Master of Whispers.
he's just don't care. Like, my job is my job, and that's what I do. Like, he has no affiliation really at all.
His affiliation is to the realm, he
Yeah.
says.
Yeah. I would argue that his true affiliation is good,
I
and
think
he's
he's a little
willing.
more good, yeah.
He's willing to do all of this other stuff and go along with whatever, so that he can, behind the scenes, do what he thinks is good. But maybe he's deluding himself and thinking
Yeah.
that that's possible.
Especially near the end when
Yeah.
he gets cooked. Spoiler for those of you who didn't watch it. Sorry about that. Watching it live if it's on YouTube.
How do you like your
just forget that
spider?
part.
Well done.
Yeah. Chaotic neutral is Littlefinger.
Yeah.
And he played a great freaking part. He played a great part in what was it? The Irish, the guys that were from Ireland. It was on Netflix, season 4. I'll think about it. That was a bad one. That's not as good. They were gangsters in Ireland.
Blinders?
Peaky Blinders.
They're not Irish. They're English.
No, weren't they Irish?
Birmingham. I actually looked it up. I was trying to figure it out, and I looked up Birmingham accent, and like if you go to YouTube and look up Birmingham accent,
So,
it's
all right.
all Peaky Blinders.
All right. Well, bring it. All right. Well, my fault then. English. Chaotic evil is the well, we all know who that guy is. The creepy guy that marries Sansa and has the wolves eat people. And,
Ramsay Bolton.
yeah, he played such a good bad dude.
And he's such a nice person. Like, he plays all these other parts where he's just like the sweetest, kindest, and it makes it even worse to see him acting like that.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why he did it, because he was getting cast in all these little roles that he had to be cute and nice, and he's like, no, I can be a bastard. Neutral evil.
He played that so well.
He really did. Neutral evil is the queen that has sex with her brother because she's a freak.
Cersei.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's a freak because she had sex with her brother. I'm just saying she's a freak in general. Like, she's got all
What was
sorts of-
she? Neutral evil?
Neutral evil.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, she doesn't particularly care about the law or not the law.
Yeah,
she
she's
just
just
wants her own way.
Yep. And then red lawful evil is the Red Witch.
Oh, yeah, okay. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ned Stark's not in there at all.
Ned Stark and another one. Ned Stark is in it. He's lawful good.
Lawful good.
That's what I always think of Ned Stark as like the worst example, like the best example perhaps of how bad lawful good can be. Because, man,
He could have
Ned
done
Stark-
a lot more good if
Ned
he was
Stark
just less
screwed
lawful about it. You know?
everybody. The entire
He could have
series.
saved the entire realm if he just would break a rule here and there. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I have thoughts. Many
Yep.
thoughts. Many feelings.
That's why I think chaotic good is the goodest, because you just do whatever has to be done to be good, and it can be lawful or not, depending on the dictates of the circumstance that you're in. You know.
Yeah, and they do change it. So if depending on which one you look at, other people have different.
Yeah, it's very debated. It's that's why I was saying like a theorist might be helpful here, because it's super debatable, and I've heard people get very heated about their alignment being misconstrued, or you know what I mean, like miscategorized, or I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that I'm either lawful neutral or no, I'd say I'm lawful neutral. If I'm looking at the scale, I'm more lawful neutral than anything else.
Which is also like neutral good, basically.
Yeah. Like chaotic evil is that little another one. The other 3 or 4 that are on here is that little blonde kid that everybody hated.
Joffrey, yeah.
Joffrey, yeah. And
Yeah,
he played a great character too. How fantastic did he do? Like the evil people in that show did a fantastic job staying that way.
And that actor also, what's his name?
Can't remember.
He has the same name as the famous actor from is it The Honeymooners?
I can't remember. But Jackie Gleason.
Yeah. Right.
Jackie Gleason. He's a really nice person.
Really, like, he was like really upset at how well his character like worked at being evil, because like
people would like yell at him in the streets.
It's so the opposite. He was saying like it's so the opposite of who he is that like it really messed with him to play that role, you know.
I'm sure.
And he like quit like TV acting and like donated a ton of money to like a children's theater.
He started a children's
like,
theater.
Yeah.
What a nice guy.
He was just like, I can't do this.
Be like, it's so bad and I did such a good job. I need to revert this immediately.
Yeah.
But I can see that. Like, if you're a really nice person and you're playing a very evil person, and because people are stupid.
Because people are stupid.
And I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot of stupid people that will see you on the street and be like, you're an asshole. And be like, you don't, do I know you?
Fuck you for what you did to Sansa. You do realize that's a fictional character, right?
You do realize that paid me a buttload of cash to act like that, right? I'm just a good actor or actress, depending on, you know, how you
And I think, you know, when somebody plays a role where they're playing an evil character and they make it quite clear that this is not the person you want to be. These are the actions of someone you don't want to be. They're actually doing a service to humanity. They're doing a service to kindness. They're doing a service to compassion by portraying a discompassionate character in such a way that you know that's the opposite direction you want to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says, I want to be like Joffrey. You know, people are like, I am so not Joffrey. I'm going to go do something kind right now just to prove how not Joffrey I am. Right? So, like, it's really like being able to portray an evil character as so horrendous and heinous that no one would want to be that way is a really cool thing to be able to do, I think. You know, I think as a writer, like being able to write an evil character that's so evil that no one would want to be that way. That's like a positive thing to do, you know, in like a weird roundabout way.
Yeah. And then you can think about that of the people that do want to be like Joffrey and think that he's great. And those people...
Are there really many of those people, though? I feel like Joffrey was such a like Jackie Gleason did such a good job making Joffrey's character so unappealing that I don't even think people wanted to be like him.
I think there's a few.
There might be a few, but
that's the problem. Same thing with Ramsay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know that somebody out there was like, this dude's badass.
Yeah, well, Ramsay made it look cool. That character made Ramsay look cool, whereas like Jackie Gleason made, Joffrey made him look unappealing.
Well, yeah, there's a difference because like the Ramsay Bolton character never lost his cool.
Correct.
He was completely devoid of like real emotion for the most part. But Joffrey was a whiny baby, and nobody wants to be that. I think people who actually end up being more like Joffrey think that they're being like Littlefinger. They think they're all smart and they're all scheming. They're like Cersei, actually. Like, she thinks she's super smart, and she's like got all this power, and everybody's like so impressed with her. And like nobody is. Nobody thinks you're cool, Cersei.
Everybody hates you.
For anyone here that hasn't watched Game of Thrones, I'm sorry. We're not trying to be exclusionary.
I mean, I think 2 years after the finale, you're kind of a lot. I mean, you're through the window where somebody could have found a way to binge
spoilers.
So, I mean, I'll put a spoilers thing on the YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube,
right.
You should have read the description below when I told you an hour ago to read the description below, because it says spoilers Game of Thrones. If you haven't watched it, sorry. Anywho, well, we have been on for over an hour now.
Oh wow! Whoops.
Yep.
I told you that would happen.
Yeah.
We just get to talking about fun stuff, and that's it. So, anything you want to sign off with before we go?
Check out our Kickstarter for Mr. Guy Zombie Hunter and the Origins Anthology.
It's more fun than a barrel of butts.
More fun than a barrel of butts.
Funnier than a barrel of butts. That's what it's supposed to be.
Funnier than a barrel of butts.
Not more fun. Funnier.
I'll drop the link in again just in case, since it's in there, and it could, some people could not find it. If you want to hear something that Lynsey said really funny last time, go check the YouTube video of our last time that we had an interview with these two. Lynsey said something about Tracy Queen that made me cry. It was so funny.
Oh, are you gonna? Can you remember it? Can you like give us
I
the
can't remember what it was,
not verbatim summary?
but I remember I had tears coming out of my eyes, and I could barely breathe. I was laughing so hard.
Awesome.
It was something about the adult industry of sorts.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but if you're watching this now, go back to the last time we interviewed these two, and I think it's actually in the description of the YouTube of what was said.
So.
Or maybe I took it out because it got flagged for inappropriate something or
Sorry.
other.
Sorry,
I'm pretty sure that I marked it mature, like the video, so I don't think it did too much. But anyway, you know, I will sign off, not real quick, just hang out with me while we're doing it. But, you know, thank you both for being here again. Thank you for spending time with me.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you so
hanging
much
out.
for
Before
having
we
us.
go,
It's awesome.
wait a minute. I'm seeing a pillow in the background.
Oh,
Is that who I think it is?
It absolutely is.
my other boyfriend.
Oh my gosh, it's the amazing Jeff Goldblum.
And look, can you see the little butterfly for
I can.
causing a storm?
Oh my gosh. All right.
Chaos theory.
Next
On to
time, next interview, we will start with that. Because I think that's a whole nother, unraveling that is at least.
If I showed you the pillow she was sitting on, your video would probably get
Yeah,
flagged.
we get flagged.
All right. Well, hey, I mean, next time. That way we won't flag this. We need this one, but
We
the
need
next
this.
one we'll be all
Yeah,
set for.
next,
So,
next one, who cares, right?
yes. So thank you both for being here. Hang on me real quick while I sign off, and
Got
I'll
it.
be right back to you to say goodbye. Hang on me just 1 second. And thank you again for being on. You guys are the best.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks
Yep.
so much.
1 second. I'll be right back to you. That's the wrong button. There it is. Well, that's all right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our guests, Jayel and Lynsey from Oneshi Press. Awesome people. I love having them on every time. They, again, I don't know how they do it, but I say something very gentle and very nice, and Lynsey somehow twists it into something that is not. And it's super funny. It's just that, and I think every time I've interviewed them, I've blushed by her taking something completely out of context that I did not mean. But anyway, go to the Kickstarter, check it out. Again, that is the end of our first ever Facebook Live video. And I think it worked out pretty well. People seem to enjoy it. We'll do more of these. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much for checking it out. If you're listening on the podcast, we do these at least twice a week, and I try to get them up within a week of posting. So make sure you keep checking back. Again, my name is Jeff Palumbo. This is the Spinwhiz Comics Show. Thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful night. I greatly appreciate you being here, and we'll see you again on the next show. Have a great one. Talk to you soon. Good night.